Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a live Monday edition of the CK Podcast. I'm your host, Leo Bias. Today, my partner in crime, Kenyon from Toronto, is joining us, and we talking NBA basketball and the hottest news of the day. It involves the Kings. You know, we cover the Raptors and Kings in this channel a lot, but particularly since they are the hot commodity right now because they do host or hold the number 4 pick in Thursday's draft. We're literally 3 days away, Kenyon. Is going to be a hell of a day. Lots of fireworks. And the fireworks, honestly, they may pop before the day. So, you know, we'll keep you guys updated with all the latest news. Shams coming out with news today about the Kings being very, very interested in Keegan Murray. How much of a smokescreen is that? We'll get into the details in a little bit. Lots of stuff happened over the weekend. Obviously, I don't think we had a chance to talk about the results from the Celtics series, right? We'll talk about that in a little bit as well, and just some of the news that are surfacing league-wide. Lots of smoke screens, as I've said, literally for the last 2 months. We're going to hear a bunch of different things. The one nice thing that I like about the Raptors is that they don't leak things, as you said. We typically find out the day of, just like the whole Scotty Barnes stuff. I mean, I would have been disappointed if they didn't go Scotty Barnes, but I'm glad they made the right decision. And now, obviously, the rest is history. But Kenyon, how you doing, brother?
I'm good. And on the Scotty Barnes front, I remember talking to Robert about this a while ago, and he asked me like, who was I looking for, and I was initially disappointed for not getting who I wanted to get, but it wasn't Suggs. I really wanted the Raptors to move up to get Mobley.
Oh, okay. I mean, either way, it was a win, right? Like, you get Mobley.
No, it was a win.
Yeah.
It was a win. But I was just like, oh man, Mobley. Like, I was always a Mobley guy, and then like Robert was like, all right, yeah, I can't fault you for that.
I was wrong about Mobley in terms of not having him as high. I mean, I had him number 6, but yeah, he really surpassed my expectations and everything that I thought just in year one. You know, I obviously saw the talent. I just didn't see the motor, the drive at USC. You always saw the intangibles in terms of, well, you know, you always ask yourself, well, is he a dog? Is he not? Like, does he love the game? And even in Summer League, when I watched him up close, like 3 feet away, I was just like, damn, like, I don't know about him. Like, he's getting destroyed by Şengün. Like, he's super skinny. You know, watching him in person was even more obvious to me. But then, like, the damn light bulb just switched on once he got to training camp. And then he started playing with all the, you know, good players. And I was like, what the hell? Obviously, it helps to play with Allen, right? But, damn, like, he really impressed me offensively, man. Because defensively, we all knew how good he was. But offensively is where he just, you know, took it up a notch, and I was very impressed because I didn't see any of that at Summer League. And typically, some of these players do show it right away, but for him, for whatever reason, it was crazy to me.
Like I find Summer League in general, and this is actually a pretty good segue to what we're going to talk about. But I find Summer League is good for some things. It's good to see the size of college players now against sometimes former NBA players or whatever. So you actually, you know, for example, you finally got to see, okay, is Cade 6'8" or is he not 6'8"? And, you know, you see guys either look smaller or bigger. I saw, you know, sorry to make it all about, you know, Barnes.
Scotty looked big as hell in person.
He looked like a man-child. That was my first comment. I was like, you know, because it's different seeing them against similar, I guess, young men who are, you know, in terms of body maturity, are at a certain level by comparison. So, you know, I always look for that as a big factor in Summer League. And I also think that certain guys, like Summer League is kind of for certain guys, right? So Franz Wagner, who was someone that I really liked, he wasn't, you know, he didn't look good at Summer League because of how Summer League showcased.
He's a stud.
I will say one thing. It's really important to have a good point guard at Summer League to really see like how the team sets
to maximize you
potentially could execute in the future. So anyways, take it where we're going to take it.
Correct. Okay, so perfect. So let's get real quickly, let's talk about all the stuff before we get into some of the King stuff from today. Miami interested in Jeremy Grant. A lot of teams are interested for this guy, right? You know, the Kings included. I'm sure the Raptors will make some phone calls as well. But, we hear OG's name surfacing a lot. So Jeremy Grant, OG, everybody wants that 6'8", 6'9" wing that can do a little bit of everything, right? I mean, those guys, as we've talked about, they don't grow on trees. So it's super important to try and get some of these guys. And do you see some smoke screens here? Like, do you see the Heat having enough to trade for Jeremy Grant, or does Detroit, because we know that Detroit's in love with Ivy, does Detroit just call Sacramento and be like, all right, I'm going to offer you Jeremy Grant in 5, we swap for 4, and the Kings have to throw somebody in like a Holmes or a Dante DiVincenzo to make the money work?
Yeah, so I think if you look at Miami, I mean, I think that they're, they are actually interested. I think that they need upgrades for sure.
For sure, yeah.
Especially on their depth pieces. The one thing is that I am a lot and have been a lot lower on Tyler Hero for a while.
Me too.
Compared to other people. But I don't know. It depends on what Detroit's getting back, because I think that they can get back more than what Miami would be able to offer. Let's say Miami offers them their first round this year. I think that they have their first round. I'm not looking at the thing right now,
Right.
and then a first round 2 years from now. Those aren't going to be great first round picks, right?
No.
I think Miami's going to take a step back in the regular season next year. That doesn't mean that I don't think that there'll be a
Correct.
playoff team, but what happens with these older teams as they make deep runs, especially a team with the players that play like Jimmy Butler or Kyle Lowry, they tend to get nicks and bruises along the way. And, you saw that. You saw that in the playoffs again. And so I think that they're going to take a step back, and this helps them, but I don't like the assets from a Detroit standpoint. So do you see any other Grant?
Yeah, I agree, because typically, as you said, there will be a little bit of a hangover for the Heat, I believe, during the season, unless they do get a Jeremy Grant and an infusion of youth, right? But if they keep, mostly like the main core together, they're gonna take a step backwards and try and get healthy during the season, keep the team afloat, and then make their run towards the latter end of the year into the playoffs. That's typically what these teams do. But as you said, do they have the pieces that maybe Sacramento or other teams have? I don't think so. I'm not high on Hero, but at the same time,
someone suggests Duncan Robinson and the 27th.
Yeah,
and that's what I mean, right? Like,
so Vince put out 27, 2024, a lot of protected, and Duncan Robinson for Grant. I mean, that's not a bad deal for him. I mean, in terms of where Detroit is right now, right? Like, they're still looking to tank for next year's draft. Is what I've been told by other Pistons people. So if playoffs isn't a concern for them, then yes, then you try to get more assets and you try to get shooting. So that's not a crazy deal.
The question is like, why are you helping Miami out in two ways? You're helping Miami out by cleaning up their books, and you're taking on Duncan Robinson's salary, which looks not so good, right? I don't like getting super caught up in the salary discussions on one hand, but it's not a great.
But he's but he's an elite shooter, and like elite shooting is a prioritized thing in the NBA. Whether we like it or not,
he didn't play because his defense was so bad that he couldn't play in the playoffs even more than 8 minutes at max.
Right, but yet again, the Pistons are like, but the Pistons are the Heat. You know what I'm saying? Like the Pistons are going to need shooting.
With you, but I'm just, it's if I'm looking at taking on value, I would guess that if, for example, maybe Portland might be interested, if Portland's willing to offer, their supposed OG package, I would rather take that for Grant. And then you can win now if you want, if you're Portland, or try to win now. And if you're the Pistons, you get better assets.
Right. Okay, so let's move on to Kyrie Irving saying that he might test free agency. I caught cap on this. his stock is as low as ever, just because, not because he's not a great player. I mean, we all know how great he is, but it's because of the uncertainty of what he may do next. I mean, he could retire tomorrow for all we know if he doesn't like the situation. So those things are scary to me. Do you see any, potential team going after a Kyrie Irving?
Okay, so I'll just toss this out there just for the heck of it. What if, if you were Dallas, right? Would you try to work a sign-in trade? I'm just like spitballing here.
Interesting.
But that would be interesting.
For Brunson
and something else. Whoever. It would have to be probably $30 million in salary. But
okay, so now you got Luka, you got Kyrie, and you just traded for Christian Wood. That's a hell of a team on paper, right? Like on paper, it's a hell of a team. But yet again, Kyrie, KD, and Ben Simmons on paper is even better.
Interested.
Right, but I just feel like Kyrie, KD, and Ben Simmons on paper, in theory, is better than what Kyrie can do in Dallas. Obviously, Dallas, I get the connection. Red State. They won't really, trip much about the whole vaccination stuff because over there it's a little bit different. Texas does their stuff a little bit different. But yes, that's extremely interesting there. Good stuff there. And then this was hilarious to me. Kenyon Martin Jr., who I like, by the way, recently approached the Rockets management to discuss a possibility of a trade. I'm like, bro, who are you? like. I get it, but yet again, I mean, he's been in the league 2 years. He hasn't earned his stripes, and he's already asking for a trade. Just a little bit, silly to me, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about that one.
I just think Houston's a mess, and I was saying this to someone else recently, where we're just talking about different players and how some players can be volatile, and mental health is a real issue, but also. Yes. To deal with that or to absorb, dealing with that into an organization. And I think that the NBA is getting better at it. It hasn't always been the best, but I think that they're moving in the right direction of recognizing it and, respecting it. You need to have the right people and veterans or leadership in place to help these people, right? These players, these young men.
Correct.
So, I think that Houston's a mess.
I think they have a bright future because they have young assets, but they do need some stability in terms of how they're going to project, right, these players, and will they put these players in positions to succeed. So that is that. Next news, the Pacers are seriously discussing trades centered on Malcolm Brogdon and Miles Turner, which this can lead into the whole Kings news. And, Indiana is very linked to Sacramento. So all the people that are watching now, if we got 40, 50 people watching, make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Huge shout out to Chasen's in Elk Grove. Make sure you guys continue to support your local businesses so that our economy can continue to thrive. So huge shout out to Chasen's in Elk Grove. Phenomenal food. I was there yesterday for Father's Day. It was my first time experiencing Father's Day, even though my child is still in my wife's womb. But they say I'm still a father. So, hey, it counts.
Congratulations, by the way.
Appreciate that, brother. So, yes, the Pacers are seriously discussing trades centered around Malcolm Brogdon, Miles Turner. Both of you and I can agree that both these guys are very good basketball players. But depending on fit, organization, systems, it don't matter who trades for these guys. How can you maximize both of these players? Now, do you see... Because real quick, Miles Turner going back to the Kings and in theory, that'd be crazy to me, right? Like that would be like, what the hell are you doing? It didn't work the first time. Why would it work this time? But again, on paper, it's always worked. The problem is that Miles Turner has always wanted that bigger role, and we both know Miles Turner is not a better player than Sabonis. So I don't see how that works. So I don't think Miles Turner is in play for the Kings, but maybe a guy like Malcolm Brogdon next to a guy like De'Aaron Fox that could alleviate some of the playmaking stuff. Very good. I mean, I've always been a huge fan of Malcolm, but do you see something there? And then obviously we can also talk about how Miles Turner would fit very nicely in Toronto.
Yeah, so I remember, I want to say it was the year that the Raptors won the chip. think Malcolm was still, that was his last year on the Bucks, I think.
Right.
And I can double check that, quickly, but I think that was, and I remember him being injured. So this all leads into what I'm trying to say is that, let's see. So, yes, he was on Milwaukee. So he came back in that series, and I was like, he is the X factor. And he was really,
100%.
he's a two-way player.
Yes.
I love his game. And I also said when, in terms of Suggs, and this is why I was lower on Suggs in terms of drafting him for the Raptors, but I still think that Suggs will be a decent player.
Me too, for sure.
Suggs' game could potentially end up similar like his ceiling is like a Malcolm Brogdon level player,
but like more athletic.
Not that bad.
But yes,
yeah. So and I think slightly shorter.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Same similar type of thing. I think that if I'm the Kings, I don't know if I would want Malcolm Brogdon because injury history is a real thing.
Yes.
And I was talking to my friend who is a Kings, not a Kings fan, a Bulls fan that I told you about last time. And he was just like, I forget who he said was better than Brogdon, or sorry, he said Brogdon is better than this guy, and I was like, yeah, but like Brogdon, so I'm looking at his last 3 years of playing. 36 this year, 56 the year before, 54 the year before. That's rough.
Yeah.
That is
and talking about rough, Charlie talked about OG and same issues with like health concerns, kind of shed some light for the people that don't have really like that watch the Raptors on the daily, what his injuries entail in comparison to the injuries, say from a Malcolm Brogdon, like how different are they?
Yeah, so
like quickly, you know what I mean? Like long, short,
so I'll compare him to Jeremy Grant as well, because I think that's the injury history. So he was originally injured in college, which is part of why his stock dropped in the draft. And it's funny because I believe the Indiana Pacers had a chance to take him and took TJ Leaf, and I was like, yes.
The Kings had two chances to take OG at 15 and 20. They got Justin Jackson at 15, Harry Giles at 20, and then obviously he went 22 or 23 to the Raptors. To me, he was a top 10 pick that year, like regardless.
I thought he would go up to top 13, and he did not, which I'm happy about. But yeah, so the thing is the year that he won, or the year that we won the championship,
right?
He was, I wouldn't consider that a typical injury for two reasons. Number one, he started off the year not playing because his father just died. Mm-hmm. So the Raptors, being the organization that they are, they're like, take all the time you need. So he missed a lot of games. And I'm always curious what that championship team would have looked like if he would have played for another day. Later on in the year, he had appendicitis. Now, appendicitis is not like a leg injury, right? So I don't know, how much you know about appendicitis, but it can happen. It happens randomly. And do you mind if I give a little bit of,
go ahead.
A trigger warning, if you will? So if you, and this is how or you can kind of figure out what happened with OG is he had appendicitis leading up to the playoffs. Appendicitis usually is, they remove the appendix laparoscopically.
Yep.
I've actually seen them back to back in the OR before. Another day, another time. And essentially what happens is ideally you catch it before it bursts, right? So you'll catch it when it's inflamed.
Oh, I
take
know.
It out.
That's just painful.
You've had it?
I thought I did, but my mom had it, my dad had it, my two brothers had it, and I'm like, this shit must be hereditary or something, because I'm about to have it. Like, my stomach was bursting. Thank God it wasn't that. But yes, like that, I mean, that could kill you.
Absolutely. Now, on top of that, this is how you know that it was infected, because they said it was infected, but this is how you know that it was probably burst, is that when it is burst, and I've seen it back to back in person, it's, watching, the surgeons do their thing. I've seen it when it's burst, and number one, it does not look like an appendix anymore. And then number two, it's burst, and there's essentially, sorry, this is the trigger warning, fecal matter all up through your guts, all up to your diaphragm. And so it's basically impossible. This is why they basically say, like, look, like, we'll do what we can. We'll give you, antibiotics, but there's a high chance that you will have an infection. So you remove that year, right? That's a big part of why people are like, oh, well, this year, and it also hasn't been consistent. I get scared when guys have consistent leg injuries or consistent injuries to a certain part of their body. This year, I was like, okay, OG broke a finger. You've played basketball, I'm sure. How many times have you at least sprained a there you go, right? So you take that out. I think what I would do is I would have injury concern moving forward if I'm the Raptors, and I would just watch this year, right? I would be like,
that's fair.
Is he injury?
Yeah.
You just
right. So like just to recap, he did have a severe injury in college, right? Which is why his stock dropped. So that was the biggest injury there. Yep. Then his father passed away, and the Raptors, being the organization that they are, they're very respectful, and they gave him as much time. And then his appendix ruptured. So, that's not a basketball-related injury. That's more of like something different where, you got to take care of what you got to take care of. And then, last year, we did see the finger. Like, we saw a bunch of bruises.
Hip pointer, I think.
Right, like hip pointers. And that's because he's 6'8". He's a defensive menace, stud defensively, and he plays very physical. Those things are bound to happen. Not like Marvin Bagley getting his finger stuck or something just randomly because he tried to play defense on a certain possession. Like, this guy plays defense every possession. And it sounds like I'm throwing shade at Bagley, but I mean, let's be honest. Like, when you play as physical as OG does, like, things are gonna happen. It just 100%.
He uses his shoulder at the wrecking ball in the post. If you've seen it, he literally just and it just like rams his shoulder into the guy's chest.
You're right.
I would not want to play against him.
Huge shout out to Melvin Hawkins for the super chat for $2, man. We appreciate you. Let's get you a little applause there. He said big trades loading. Let's effing go Kangs. Here in Sac, we call them the Kangs because they be making Kangs moves like the dumb ones that they've always made. So shout out to Melvin. and Charlie, I hope that kind of, explains some of the injury history from OG. Kenny kind of explaining that in good detail, in my opinion. So that is the reason why, if I'm the Kings, I'm giving them 4. And, like that original trade that we had suggested, because I just love OG. But yes, there's a little bit of a concern. But at the same time, I'm not majorly concerned. Like, I'm concerned about guys like Ja, right? That play reckless all the time, that already has knee injuries. Like, that's a concern to me, right? And which is why Fox isn't as reckless as he used to be early in his career, because he's like, I don't have to dunk everything. Like, a layup is worth 2 points too. So let's, Fillier from this side to that side. And I mean, can he dunk like Ja? Of course. Like, he's a supreme athlete, but I actually like that. Like, I don't want him playing recklessly and, getting injured for like no reason. It's cool when you dunk and you get the crowd going, but you can do other things like defensively to get the crowd going. So that's that. So let's get into today's news, man, which is Keegan Murray. And, the Kings, supposedly, according to Yahoo Sports, they arranged for Keegan Murray with De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis to have a dinner. So a lot of people can take that as, okay, well, they're very interested in him. I agree.
Yeah.
I like Keegan a lot. I know Kenny likes Keegan a lot. We'll get into his game right now and how he could fit there. But is that also the Kings using Yahoo or whoever? This is really like the bigger guys nationally, like all these GMs, these agents, they use reporters as leverage to put out news. That way there's certain things in negotiation and stuff like that. That's typically how it works. So is this a smokescreen in saying that, okay, we love him so much that, we're interested in him and we're going to take him at 4? Or could it just be the opposite as well, where, the other reporter put out news about Jaden Ivey, right, saying that he wasn't interested, that he said that, or that his agent said that it's not a good fit. And I came out and said, well, I call cap on that because we haven't heard it from Ivy himself. And talking about that, we have the tweet, which us NBA credential media, we have links to Zoom calls from all these prospects. I didn't join it today, but our good friend Jason Anderson from the Sacramento Bee put out the quote, which is, I haven't been in contact with them, didn't work out for them. I'm kind of just letting this process handle itself. If I got drafted there, it wouldn't be the worst option. Quote, Jaden Ivey from this, on the Sacramento Kings. And there you guys go. As I said, he never said what he said, that he wouldn't be a good fit or that I hate if I would go there. Like, that didn't come out of his mouth. Obviously, if you guys remember last year what Davion said, like Davion at first wasn't as happy, right? Because he got drafted to a team that had 2 point guards already. And then that washes out. Like, that doesn't even matter. At the end of the day, if you believe X player is the best player available, you take him. You don't worry about how they think or what their feelings is like. That should never matter if you're a good organization. Just look at the Warriors. Steph Curry didn't want to go there. It doesn't matter. He didn't work out for them. It doesn't matter. Like, you take that player if that is your player and you truly believe that he's going to help you get to the next level. Now, it's interesting because you have this news. Like, everybody knows that Ivy, in theory, is the better prospect, right? Like, he has more hype than a guy like Keegan Murray, who's always been, underrated. He's been overlooked. Those are his words that just came out in that Yahoo story. He almost went JUCO or stuff like that, which is crazy to me. But you have that guy that fits with what the Kings need, right? A stretch four that can hit the three-point shot, that can score a little bit, and that can defend. That sounds like a perfect fit next to Sabonis. And on top of that, we can't act like we're God and like we know what his future entails. Like, we can't sit there and say, Ivy has a better future because he's super athletic and he does this and this. Like, well, we can say the same argument for Keegan Murray, who was arguably one of the best players in college basketball last year. So when we talk about potential and upside, like, yes, age has something to do with it, but let's not act like he's a finished product and that he won't get better. So these are all variables that the Kings are looking at when deciding to take, Murray or Ivy. And in terms of BPA, like whoever Monty thinks is the best player available, then you take that guy. So all that to say this, that there's a bunch of stuff out there right now, and yet we don't know what they're gonna do. But what we do know is that a lot of other teams love Ivy. So if you're the Kings, Kenyon, do you use that as your leverage to say, okay, well, you love Ivy, Detroit, Indiana, I need a piece to go along with that pick and we can swap picks. Are you playing that hardball if you're Monty McNair?
So I don't work for the Kings. So,
but if you were,
I will say this. I will say this. People last year were talking about the Raptors and if you can get Barnes at this and then you should trade back and just take your guy.
Yep.
If I personally think that they should take Ivy. So that's the first thing that I'm going to say is I think that they should take Ivy. I like Keegan Murray, but I think that they should take Ivy and run and just figure it out later. And don't worry about having, your back. Figure it out. You will figure it out. Worst case scenario, you could, if it doesn't work with Ivy and Fox, then I would, if Ivy is the better option at that point after a year, then you get rid of Fox, right? Sorry, I'm just seeing these things. But yeah, so I don't think that they should get cute. I think that they might get cute, and I think that would be a mistake. Just if you like a guy, I'm not here to say like I'm the best, talent scouter in the world.
Yeah.
I've been decently right most of the time, but clearly I'm not employed by the NBA, and I don't plan on being in that capacity ever. I would say just take the guy that you think is the best player available and figure the rest out after.
Now, do you think that Jaden is the better prospect than Keegan? It's tough, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not easy.
It's not easy. I would lean towards Jaden Ivey, but I do like Keegan Murray for a lot of reasons. I really do, and I also agree with this guy. I saw that earlier, and I'm glad this is coming up. I actually like. I'll just call him the kid from Montreal. Um, so I think it's Benedict Mathurin,
Yeah,
but
Mathurin. Yep.
yeah, like I like him. I think he's a gamer. That's what like who I would consider, but I can understand not wanting to take him at 4. But
Hey,
if
but
you
if he
think that,
trade with Indiana, right, and say like for me, as you said, Malcolm may not be the guy, but if I'm them, I'm asking for Chris Duarte and 6 for number 4, right? Now you got Chris Duarte, a starting caliber player in the NBA who's already shown that when he's healthy, he got injured last year. I get it, but he was a rookie of the year for like the first 2 months. Like he was balling. I get it, he's old, but let's not act like he's not a very good player already. So I would ask for a guy like that in 6, and then we get your guy, Benedict Mathurin at number 6, and now you have your
yeah,
guard,
I
small
mean,
forward.
I I see what you're saying, but again, like I always just cut through the games and just pick your guy, because you don't
Yeah,
know, like if you make a trade and you let's say they don't like these guys and they like Mathurin, right? Although again, with the Kings, I would take Ivy. That's who I would take. But let's say you like Mathurin, or they like Mathurin, and they just take the guy. Unless you're taking a reach that's going to be like way, some guy in the 30s, like okay, but like,
but if he's your
I
guy
don't think
though,
it's
and
yeah,
he's gonna be there at 6, which it's guaranteed that he'll be there at 6, and you're trying to gain an extra asset, I don't see anything wrong with that. That makes sense. Because like we know who the
yeah.
top 4 guys are, which is
But do you know he's gonna, like, you know what I mean? Like, what if another team ends up taking a liking to him, right? And like that's the risk that you play, especially trading back a couple spots, not just one spot. It's a
2
tough risk because then
spots.
it's like, you know what I mean? Like you have to know that for sure the other two teams, why would they give you their cards and what they're gonna do, right? Like that they're going to skip on your guy. And so the other thing that I ask is that, like, and I guess you could explain this better than me, is that what the Kings want to make the playoffs next year, and that's pretty
Right.
obvious, right?
Yes.
Whether it's the play-in, I think it's probably going to be the play-in, but they want to make the playoffs at some capacity and try and go and take it from there.
Right.
The question is what are you doing long term? I would take a prospect and take the guy that you like over getting like Chris Duarte, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is that if you try to trade for Brogdon, the problem with Brogdon is that I gave you his injury history. I think someone else asked it, but again, 34 games, 54 and 56. Those are the past 3 years. And he has never really truly been healthy, in his career. So I think that's not necessarily the direction that I would go. But that's just me. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I think you can take it from there.
Yeah. So King Bibby brings up a great point, or King Gibby, sorry. He says, I just saw a new mock draft. I think it was a CBS Sports one, with Banchero landing at number 4 to the Kings. And that's a real possibility, which is why if I'm the Kings, I wait until the first 3 picks are gone, right? Which,
Yeah.
you got Houston, Orlando, and Oklahoma. There's a real possibility that Ivy goes top 3. Like, make no mistake about it. Like, he's definitely in play because there's a lot of people that believe he's the best player in the draft. So it's not crazy to think that. And if that situation happens, then you run away with Banchero at 4, because Banchero is a guy that I can see averaging 18 points right off the bat. Like, he's NBA ready, great passer, smooth scorer, can play that. Obviously, there's question marks about his defense, and he may not be the defensive fit next to Sabonis. But again, when you're a bad team, you don't focus on fit. You focus on best player available. And if that happens, if there's a little bit of patience and you have all these deals racked up for you, like if you're mining and they're calling your phone, I'm waiting till that last second to see if Banchero falls, or if, Jabari, which I do think it'll be Chet, Jabari 1 and 2. I don't know who's going number 1, but those 2 are locks at number 1 and 2. And then it's like,
Yeah.
well, Ivy, Banchero at 3 and 4. And again, it wouldn't shock me, man, because I don't think, as much as I love Kevin Porter Jr. from Houston, I don't know if they're sold on him. So, them drafting Ivy makes a lot of sense too, because you put Ivy and Jalen Green, and holy smokes, you got the most athletic backcourt in the NBA. So that would be crazy there. So, yeah, man, I think they wait. Like, if I'm on it, I wait, and I have all these deals there. And then again, if Detroit's calling, then you make that deal for Jeremy Grant. Then I would love to have Jeremy Grant and Keegan Murray. You all of a sudden boost the position of need, right? Like, you don't have, besides Harrison Barnes, there's nobody else on the roster. You now would have 3, NBA starting level guys there. So that would be huge for them, all 6'8" and above. So we talked about the number 4 pick and the dinner that was arranged. So that's interesting. And then we talked, and then we saw what Jaden Ivey said.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you're
I guess
seeing?
I didn't answer your question. I guess, yes, I think it's a real smokescreen, and if you're taking a guy for dinner, it's a pretty good sign that you're interested in him. I think Murray I think Murray that was taken for dinner, right? So I think Murray would be a good fit with the Kings. I would not take Murray if I'm the Kings and I have Ivy available.
Okay.
Let me put it that way.
But if he's not, okay, well, someone brought up John Collins, which that was the other news today as well. Thank you for reminding me. It was John Collins, and how the Kings are very interested in him. They're trying to secure him to play next.
I mentioned it last time.
Yeah, so they're really obviously they're not giving up the number 4 pick. So anyone that Atlanta Cox fans, like, you're drunk. Like, they're not giving the number 4 pick. Like, I'm not giving number 4 for just anybody. Like, it needs to be a guy like an OG, like those types of guys. So yes, if they get John Collins, the trade would not include the number 4 pick. It would include future picks, which again, as Canyon and I have mentioned, those could be good picks, because you don't know what the Kings are going to do, right? Like, there's always uncertainty, and it's the truth. Like, I keep it real with you guys. Like, it's true. So they would be giving up future picks for him. Again, his salary scares me. But before we get into John Collins, if Banchero falls to 4 and Keegan's there at 5, right? Because you just said, I'm taking Ivy. If that's, between Ivy and Murray, then do you take Banchero or Murray?
That is really tough.
Ooh, so you're not high on Banchero.
Sorry, Banchero. Sorry, I still have the Canadian kid in my mind.
You're right.
Yeah, so I don't like him, I'll be honest, and I think he's a bad fit for the Kings. If so I would be a bad person to, if he is the best player, you still take him and you figure it out. That's what I will say. Is if he is
a
truly
bad
the
fit,
best
why
player,
though? Since he's a 4-3, and that's what they need.
Well, bad fit because everything is saying that he's not super athletic, right? In terms of like overall athleticism, he struggled. His defense is not his premier thing, right? You look at the Kings, and they don't have good defenders, which is why you're linked to the Kings wanting guys like Jeremy Grant, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think that he. Also, in terms of like let's say a 3-4 that fits next to
Sabonis at the 5.
Sabonis is difficult to fit a team around because of the space that he likes to operate in, depending on the type of team that you want to build. So you already have Fox that really likes to slash, that operates in the same space, and then Banchero, who also likes to presumably operate in that same space. That is, I'm not saying it's not doable. It's just I don't know if it's the easiest thing to work around. But if he's the best player, you take him.
Yes. I think his scoring, which is arguably the best in the draft in terms of just scoring from on all 3 levels. Yes, his 3-point shot isn't as consistent, but I mean, he has the smoothest mid-range jump shot in the draft. I mean, this guy is such a smooth scorer. And on top of that,
Right.
like the added element to me is that we always talk about scores, but this guy is a legit passer. Like very good
Yep.
passer in transition in the half court. So his IQ is really high. So I think that's the added element that makes me believe if I'm scouting somebody and in terms of fit, like projecting somebody, then that's what would put me over the top in selecting him over, say, Keegan
Yep.
Murray, just because Keegan, his one-on-one game isn't the best. But again, like he would be a great utility player for the Kings because they have Sabonis who can play make, they have Fox who can play make, break somebody down and kick out. So that's the question, right? Like fit, maybe Keegan Murray's a better fit in theory, but as you said, like if you're the Kings, you got to take the best player available and worry about that later. Like Keegan Murray is the ideal fit for the Kings. But Keegan Murray, to you and to me, he may not be above Ivy and Bankero. That makes sense. So like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's
like
it's
that's
tough.
just it. Is you got to pay whoever you pick. You have to. I really hope for you that the Kings do not mess up this draft. Right. I think I understand the need to get better or to whatever. If they have the right development staff in place and all that, I would take the best player and figure it out. That is, I'm sticking with that. So yeah.
Okay. So
Um,
so John Collins, do you give up Harrison Barnes and a future first, just like as the premise of this hypothetical deal for John Collins, knowing that Harrison Barnes' deal is expiring, so there's value in that on top of him being a very good player, and then you're getting a player who was on a long-term deal who just signed a crazy, $25 million a year type of deal, and in theory he fits very nice next to Sabonis because he can stretch out the floor, and his weak side rim protection is solid.
yep.
And he's a good roller on, so it wouldn't just be Fox and Sabonis playing the pick and roll. It could be Fox and John Collins as well. So you add
Yeah.
that
I mean,
element to it, right? And then you draft
there's
Ivy at 4.
definitely yeah, like there's definitely a difference between people that roll and people that dive to the rim, right?
Right.
I think you would agree. And that, in a case in point, John Collins versus Clint Capella, right? You
Correct.
know, so
Correct.
that's a good way to kind of frame it. And I would also say that within that, there's so I it'd be nice to have a roller and a diver. But that's whatever. I think John Collins is good enough as a shooter that he can pick and pop, which is interesting. His fit on the Kings would be. Let me put it this way: straight up, it's an upgrade for the Kings.
Yes.
It's just, do the Hawks need to clear cap space? I don't think so. So I don't. Obviously, yes, Harrison Barnes would have to be part of it, but I don't see the value in that because they have Gallinari, whose $20 million is not guaranteed this year. So they, like if they're trying to clear cap space, I'm just trying to see it from
What if
both
John
sides, right?
Collins is just trade me? We already heard those rumors last year before he got the extension. Like, could that be just a headache for them? And they overachieved that year, right, against Philly, and then they came back down to earth this past year. So could
Yeah.
that just be like a move where you clear cap space, you get a very good vet that they really need, and then you give up a good player in John Collins, but a player that you didn't feel comfortable signing anyway because he is overpaid. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, I think that the Hawks are looking to go in just they're just I like last time we talked about this, and I thought that they had kind of uh you know hit lightning in a bottle, if you will, and kind of
Hmm.
punched well above their weight, in terms of where they were, and they kind of came way back down to earth. And I think that they are committed to really just two players. I believe it is DeAndre Hunter and Trey, and that is it. And I think that they are just looking to look in a different direction. If I am the Hawks, I guess the question is, and I'm not framing. I haven't
Yeah.
looked at the salaries, but would you do a deal for the fourth if it had Collins and the 16th and a future pick.
No, I just
Okay.
can't.
I don't know. I haven't looked into it that much.
Yeah. I mean, that's been
just
a,
asking.
a deal that's been thrown out, and that's a deal that I'm reluctant to because, again, his contract matters in terms of restraining the Kings from moving forward.
I'm not even saying I would do the deal either, right? Like I'm like,
so Sabonis gonna get paid. Yeah, Sabonis gonna get paid anywhere from 28 to 35 with his extension, right? Fox is already over 30, and this guy's at 25. Like, how much more money do you have, and like how good was? I guess it's like, how good can that trio be anyway? Like, to me, John Collins needs to be your fourth best player, not your third best player. So that's where,
like I said, he's an upgrade. He's an
no,
upgrade
for sure.
the Kings. But the question is what, like, I don't think that the Kings should trade their fourth pick, is what I'm saying. Unless
correct. So if they get John Collins without giving up the fourth, then like that's where I'm like, okay, well, they're probably gonna go after, they would have to go into the luxury tax, etc. But then you keep number 4, you draft Ivy or Banchero. Like I'm still drafting Banchero, regardless if I get John Collins. As you said, like you figure that out later. So I think that's where that deal makes the most sense, is if Atlanta's like, okay, well, I'm going to get HB back, whatever, you might throw in, definitely a first round pick. So now you got Sabonis, John Collins, Ivy, Fox, Davion coming off the bench. That's solid, right? Like, you still have some holes at the 3, but you now have an upgraded roster. Right, like it's one of those things,
So I to cap it off, like I think if they have a way, ideally, if they have a way to get John Collins without giving up the fourth pick, then it's a no-brainer. Then they should consider doing it.
So if anybody wants to call in, I just put the link in the bio. We'll put you on the screen. Just call in.
Do you have to get off, or they just get added? Do they get added or?
Yeah, so I can just add as many people as I want. We're taking calls for the next 5 minutes. If we don't get any calls for the next 5 minutes, we will end the show. I think we've covered everything for today. But yes, like, I would like John Collins, but not at the expense of number 4. Let me make that very clear. Both Kenny and I agree that if you have number 4, you're drafting somebody, you're drafting Ivy, best player available. You worry about the fit later. I do think Ivy and Fox could have worked, by the way, because Ivy played a lot off ball, and he was very good off the ball. So when they talk about, Tyrese didn't work, Tyrese needed the ball in his hands to be effective. Like, Ivy doesn't need the ball to be effective. Like, he can be effective off the ball. Fox needs the ball to be effective. So that's why I'm very hopeful that could work, right? It's one of those things, man.
What about with the Wizards? Yeah, I'm just seeing that right now. I'm not even talking about. I keep seeing Barnes. And I keep thinking like Scotty Barnes. I'm like, no, and I'm like Harrison Barnes. I don't think that I don't know why they would take on both Kuzma and Porzingis.
So number 4, 37, lotto pick, Barnes, Harkless, Holiday. Oh, hell no. I would not. I'm not touching Porzingis.
I was gonna let you handle it. I'm like,
Vince, what the Vince, what the come on, man, that's crazy.
He's on one.
I'm not taking Porzingis. Like, to me, it'd be like Denny Advia, who I love, by the way. Kuzma. So now you got your 3-4. Both would start for you, and number 10 for like number 4, and like a salary filler. Like, no, I'm not getting Porzingis back in this move. No, hell no.
Yeah, I think I saw a Kevin Ferdinand.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Kevin Ferdinand was saying OG not for the number 4 pick.
Yeah.
But like we never talked about that.
So
like,
so he's saying that he's not worth the number 4 pick. Do you think he's worth the number 4 pick?
Well, no, I wouldn't. I mean, from a Raptors standpoint, I'm not trading OG this year. The like end of discussion from the Raptors standpoint. Also, I don't like anyone in the top 4, frankly, unless you're getting Chet, and even then, I'm like, I don't know, because but Chet's nice, but you wouldn't be getting Chet, so it's kind of a non-starter.
Ivy can create his own shot, not like Hallie, who needs a screen to do anything on offense. Exactly. So that's where we agree that Ivy could fit next to a guy like De'Aaron Fox. They're saying Vince is smoking crack on that one. Yeah. Again, the link is
traumatized Kings fans.
No, I think Vince threw that out there just for shits and giggles. But yes, the link is in the bio if you want to join the conversation. We'll put you on the screen real fast. Get your point across, and we'll move on. Is there anything that the Raptors are looking at right now in terms of the draft and even free agency?
So I'll tell you the moves that I would like to see done if I were in that front office.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the Raptors have 2 main issues that people keep talking about. I think one is less of an issue than people make it out to be. So the center issue is less of an issue. I think that they have found kind of a stopgap.
Mm-hmm.
That they don't need they don't need a true center. Anytime I hear traditional center, Masai said it straight up. We will get someone who fits, and I think that is the key. So I would be looking at for their mid-level exception, getting someone like maybe Lonnie Walker for a cheaper version, or Gary Harris, or there's a couple different guys. I would be very curious to see what happens to. Sorry, I'm seeing 2 of me. What's his name? Turner. I think that Turner fits the Raptors.
Hey, Buddha, can you hear us?
What's up? Yeah,
What's
I
up,
hear you
brother?
good, fam. What's up, man? How you doing?
How are
Can
you?
Hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
What's up, brother, man? Good to talk to y'all.
Not much.
What you want to talk about, brother?
Oh yeah, I was calling in just to solidify, man. I feel like Ivy, he the guy to go with. And they talking about cause I know we need forwards,
Mm-hmm.
but they saying that if we can get John Collins without giving up 4, this team be special. Like that'd be super good, because like people sleep on Ivy because I don't know if he watched enough film or what, because like he can rebound. Like he really, when he rebound, he just rebound and go. And then when he go, he can play make. So like he's
so
really
you're
a
sold.
good passer.
So you're sold on Ivy at 4. Like no matter what happens.
Yeah, I'm really I'm fine. I'm fine with
Island.
Yeah, for Fox and Ivy work perfectly because like Fox, you feel me? You got 2 Ferraris now pushing.
Right.
And to be honest, Sabonis, he a Ferrari too. He just like he the big truck drink. He the truck Ferrari.
he's a big diesel F-250 out there, just pushing shit, huh?
Word, bro.
Man.
Then you get John Collins with that flying around.
John Collins, crazy. Ivy. That's a fast team. Like that's definitely a very up-tempo team.
Harrison Barnes, man, will have to stay with him because he can like float back when we pushing and be wide open for threes. Like that's gonna be super fun.
So that trade would be with Barnes though. So it'd be Harrison Barnes, a future first. That's the framework around John Collins.
But what if you give up like two firsts?
You can't because then you can't afford both of those players.
You couldn't also give up 2 firsts in a row, so you're now looking at like.
No, I'm saying like you got to do it back-to-back years. Well, not back-to-back years, but
so it'd be 2020, 2023, and 2025, right?
Yeah, that might be tough though.
But yet again, like you just can't absorb $25 million or 15.
I'm saying you can do Holmes, you can do Justin Holiday.
Yeah.
And then,
I just don't think
You ain't got to sign Dante for that high. Like,
Yeah, like
get Dante
I
for
just don't think that Atlanta does it without HB in the deal.
Yeah. Plus
with
the
2
fact
first
that
round picks though. You don't think they'll do it for that?
No, because they're looking to win too. Like they're literally looking
yeah.
to win.
But I'm saying
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad at losing HB either though, because like if you do
Yeah.
like the 3 guard lineup of Mitchell, Fox, and then Ivy, because Ivy for real, he got some super long arms. Like he only 6'4", but his arms is 6. He got 6'9" wingspan, so like he really like super
Right.
underrated.
Again, like the realistic. Obviously, in the perfect world, you would love to keep HB, but you have to give up some good to get some good as well. So it would be
Yep.
HB, a future, and whatever else makes up $5 million to get John Collins, and then you worry about free agency, and then that's where you get like a 3, right? Like if I'm them, and I have a filler, I'm going after one of the Martin twins, Cody or Caleb. Right?
Right.
Like you go and you get one of those guys who are real basketball players, high IQ, tough motherfuckers who can, help you win games. Like that's who I'm going to go get and just have that guy there until someone else develops into that position. So those are some of the options that I'm looking at if you go John Collins, Ivy, Fox, and Sabonis.
Yeah, for real, I was looking at Caleb too this morning.
Oh, I love Caleb. He's a hooper.
Solid. I was trying to sign him in the off season, but I mean, I
Facts.
don't know how he got like a 2-way. Like he should have definitely got like a little mid level.
Yeah.
For real.
Well, Buddha, man, I appreciate you calling in, brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. Let's keep pushing, man. We almost here.
Almost Thursday. See you then, brother.
All right.
All right, good stuff there. So back to it there. To your point, yes, I don't think the Raptors need a traditional center. I mean, they can get one as a backup, right? Like a Hartenstein, like as a backup. But to start, man, no, I need a guy that's versatile, that can switch, that doesn't have to be 7 feet tall. I mean, that's so overrated.
Right.
It's overrated to
Right.
me. It's crazy.
Exactly. So, like in terms of trades, I think that there's really 2 centers that really truly fit what the Raptors want to do on defense, and can fit offensively. I have a feeling what you may say about Turner, but Turner is one. But if you look at his usage,
for sure.
he could still have a much higher usage, ironically, than he did in Indiana on the Raptors. And still fit in. So I if I'm the Raptors, he's the guy that there is injury risk for sure, but I would go for him. I've come up with trade frameworks for him before.
What's one framework that makes sense for the
It would
Pacers?
mainly be GTJ would be the biggest outgoing salary. So you do GTJ and maybe Flynn, and it might cost you a first round pick if I'm being serious. Like I'm trying to be as fair to both sides, and it
That's
might
super fair,
and
because now you have Tyrese and Gary Trent, and you just go from there.
Yeah. So the sticking. So from the. There have been people that have said like, "Oh, why would the Pacers do it? Because GTJ might walk." I don't think that GTJ is a risk to walk because you have his bird rights and you can overpay him, and so it really depends on how they've.
And he's about that money.
He is the stacks, yeah. And also I think that, let's be honest, Heald isn't long term there. The yeah, well, you can because it's expiring, but anyways, the or I maybe they're talking about something else. I think they're probably talking about something else now.
Yeah.
Like reading the comments, but yeah, I think it's an interesting idea. He definitely makes you better. I remember Robert and I were debating it a while back, and then Robert went through and looked at the synergy lineups, and he's like, "Oh, it's actually better." And I'm like, "Yeah." So it's a little bit overblown that Sabonis is a bad defensive player, and like if you look at the advanced metrics, he's actually pretty good. And then but I would actually prioritize, if that deal isn't on the table, and I know a first round pick would be tough to swallow. So I understand Raptors fans saying no. Like it'd be a future first, of course. The other person that I'm interested in is I think the Hawks are a prime person to trade with, and I think that the Raptors need to focus on playmaking and scoring off the bench. And so the person that I would be, it would probably be Gary Trent Jr. going out, bringing in Bogdanovich, and trying to figure out a way to get the 16th pick as well, and then use your 16th pick and the 33rd pick somehow to build out your bench, along with Brogdon.
So you're saying, you said Boyan or you said Bogdan?
The one that's on ATL.
Atlanta?
Yeah.
Okay. So give me that deal again, because I kind of.
It would be Gary Trent Jr. Let's say, well, I don't know if he's going to opt in, so we'll say Malachi Flynn, and potentially to get Bogdanovich, as well as to get the 16th pick. And if you have to give up future second rounders to get the 16th pick, you do it.
Oh, bro, Bogey's my guy. Like I can text him right now, and like he's. I mean,
you can tell him to come to the Raptors,
He'd love Toronto just because he's so like, me and him would have conversations off the record so many times about structure and culture. He'd be going into the perfect culture for him, and very similar to what he experienced on his team in Europe, where he won the Euro Championship and like he was so successful. He would be the only thing that worries me about him is always injuries, because he loves basketball so much that he plays freaking year round. And I try to tell him bro, like you can't be playing for. And again, his love for his country is something that we can't even imagine or think about. Like, he's gonna play for his country, so you have to take those things into account when you trade for him, because he's gonna be beat down by the time. Yeah, so
to your friend that said that Gary did not sign an extension. Gary has a player option at the end of this year, and so that for that reason, Gary is actually not extension eligible.
Correct. So to my point about Bogey, it's okay. Well, I know what I'm gonna get out of him if he's healthy, but you got to know that he's gonna be pretty tired during the season, just because he puts out so much effort. Like, he's a different player for his country. Like, he's balls out, just like, what's his name? Patty Mills for Australia. Like, those guys just love their country so much that they go ham, right? And those are things that... I'll tell you the reason
why the Raptors do it too, right? Like, number one, if you look, if you average across the years, you could argue that Bogdanovich is a better shooter. I think he's a better shooter. Yes. I also think he's a better playmaker. Way better.
He got balls in the moment, bro. Like, that guy wants the ball to win games. Like, it's different.
He also plays pretty decent defense. Now, some people would argue that Gary Trent, other people would not. I think it's close enough that I would take Bogdanovich, and I would also take the.
I think Gary plays a little bit better defense, but they're both not good defenders. Like, and it don't matter because the Raptors can hide him.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Well, he's not a guy that you have to hide in the sense that he's going to get hunted, right? Because I think as a positional defender, he's a smarter defender than Gary. But I do.
He's
think
a smarter defender. Yes, he's smarter, but he's not.
That's why I'm like, it's a wash. But
right.
Anyways, right.
Like, he has long hands.
That's my dream.
Okay, so number 16, Bogey. Okay. So then at 16,
they get I mean, maybe they don't like Flynn or whatever, but they're probably going to lose DeLon Wright, so they want a backup point guard. Gary Trent is you get his bird rights. You also get a younger player, that like significantly younger player than, I mean, not significantly, but
that fits. That's a good trade, bro. That's a good trade. So at 16, what are you looking at in terms of a prospect?
Oh, who would I look at? It really depends on who's available. Probably the kid from Montreal would not be. So that's not. But that's a good question.
Dyson Daniels, or
I know Dyson Daniels is interesting.
This guy said Memphis wants number 4 for Dylan Brooks.
Good luck. Sorry, I mean, I know there's Canadians that really want Dylan Brooks because he's Canadian, and I'm like, this. Anyways, I'm not going to go into a whole rant about Dylan Brooks, but do not do that.
They won't.
If the Kings do that, that's I start to worry. That is what I'll say. I seriously, either that or maybe Brooks has been sandbagging us for years.
Yeah. Okay, so
but yeah, it's an interesting trade. Well, you think about it. I told Robert about it, and he was like, at first he was out on it, and he thought about it, and then he's just like, he likes it, and I'm like, yeah. So it's interesting.
And he's Serbian, like Robert. So, that'll be fun. But hey, man, we had a great show, hour show long. We covered a little bit of everything today. Lots of speculation, lots of rumors. We're gonna do it again tomorrow. Next day, I'll lead up to the draft. I'll give you guys a schedule. I still don't know what we're gonna do in terms of the draft. I'll probably be at the Kings Media Room. I'm at the Golden One Center. But if I do host like a watch party at a restaurant, I will let you guys know on social media. If you guys don't follow us at Basketball Zone Official or at Cowbell_Kingdom, make sure you do. We're always updating you guys on the stories. You guys can also follow me on Twitter. I'm not very active there, but I do occasionally tweet like every 6 days or so. Real quick, would you look at PJ Washington or maybe trade back? I like PJ, but if they're asking for number 4 and like all these swaps, I ain't doing that, man. Like I think he's a good player, but that's about it. But yeah, man, Kenyon, I appreciate you as always.
Thank you for asking me to come on.
Thank you, man. But other than that, guys, we'll keep you guys updated. If there's like anything that breaks, we'll do like something emergency that happens. But other than that, man, let's keep the streak going. Last week, 5 days in a row. Let's make it 5. Let's make it another 5 days in a row, man. Would the Raptors be interested in Shaedon Sharpe? Last thing.
It depends. Well, for what?
So say say he falls there. Obviously, that's a no-brainer. But he's not falling to 16. No, he's not.
I mean, of course, sure, okay.
Yeah. Sure. He would be nice in terms of like, to me, he's like a Kuminga, where it was a blessing for Kuminga to land in Golden State. Sharpe, it would be a blessing for Sharpe to like land in Toronto, because that team has a real culture, they have structure, and that's what he needs. Because from his interviews, I don't know if you saw my posting. I'll actually show you, bro. I've seen his interview,
not your posting. You can show me.
Look what he said, bro.
Great guys that can handle the ball. I feel like I'm a great scorer and score the ball as well as play defense, so I could help on both sides of the ball. Plus, I could get my teammates involved, find them when they're open, give them the little shine. As well as on the defensive side, just locking up, switching, playing 1 through 5.
He said play 1 through 5, bro. And he said, I'm gonna give my teammates they a little shine. I'm like, bro, who do you think you are?
I mean, I think it might be a little overblown, but it was funny. He's a young kid, and I think what I'll say about this is I always worry about players who haven't played in a year. And it's not like he wasn't necessarily he wasn't unhealthy. He just didn't play the past year. I'm not, it's a complex situation, but I worry about someone who has, he's been as I said to someone else, I'm like, he's been playing against someone in a gym somewhere.
Yeah. Against
who? I don't know. So I worry about Sharpe.
Well, there it is, y'all. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. It'll be available on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you guys. Thanks you, Kenyon. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.